So for my regular viewers, you'll know that this channel is dedicated to luxury fashion and lifestyle. So that means a lot of reviews and hauls and unboxings and try-ons. And this is something that I've been doing for many years, but some of you may have noticed recently I've definitely slowed down a lot, especially in the hauls and unboxing side of the house. And this is by no means a coincidence. And I wanted to just sit down and film a quick video explaining why that is, especially since a lot of you out there have come to this channel specifically for watching those videos, which I'm not going to lie, are often the most viewed, most engaged, and most interesting, because I think a lot of us like to live vicariously through other people. But I have actually a list of, I think, 9 reasons why I've just not been buying that much into luxury lately. And I wanted to just put this out there in case some of you are also feeling the same things as I am, because it sometimes feels a little bit like in this luxury community, especially, that it's always more is more. I've talked about it on my channel before, how it can be quite fatiguing to keep up with the Joneses, especially if the algorithm promotes this kind of behavior. But I've certainly been on a journey, you can say. Gosh, I think it's so cliche saying you're on a journey. And I've just found recently that, there's nothing wrong with slowing down and trying other things. So I just wanted to explain what those 9 reasons are, and if they resonate with you, please let me know down in the comments. So let's get started with my reason number 1, and this will be no surprise to anybody out there, especially given today's climate, and that is items are just too expensive, okay? We do not have limitless funds to be spending on tomfoolery when there are social, political, economic unrest happening right now. Cost of living is crazy, inflation is going through the roof. So to be channeling my funds towards buying luxury goods when it's a toss-up between that or eating a meal, it's not that dramatic, but if you were to put it in that reductionist way, then yeah, I would rather eat than to have a nice bag to look at and starve. But even as a luxury channel, even though you may come onto here and maybe live vicariously through others or, be inspired, I do think it is worth putting us back to reality, especially when it comes to price of things, because, we don't have money now to be spending 7-8 grand on a bag. I mean, Chanel's prices, for example, it's my favorite fashion house, but am I going to be splurging that much on a bag anymore? Hell to the no. That's why you haven't seen a lot of hauls. And also, not to mention the fact that I have so many other expenses that don't even have time to think about luxury. I mean, I'm a dog mum, first of all, the most recent development. I'm spending all my money on her, and I could actually channel so much of that funds towards giving a really good life to my dog, but also to my friends and my family, and even spending on trips as well. Like nowadays, a handbag is the price of a very luxury holiday. And I've made videos in the past like talking about the prices of things, especially when it comes to like the Chanel classic flap, and it's just not worth it. If you want to splash 7-8 grand each time on a new bag, fair play to you. I've got other expenses that are way more pressing, more important, and way more fulfilling for that money. Now onto the second reason, which I think will relate more to the higher tier luxury brands. I just don't want to play games to buy my luxury goods. I mean, who remembers the good old days where you just walk into a store, point to the thing that you want and get that and off you go? That doesn't happen anymore, especially now that luxury is becoming a lot more mainstream, I would say. They're coming a lot more mass produced, and a lot of people will notice that in the quality perhaps and the availability of things, but you're seeing a lot more higher tier brands like your Hermes and your Chanel, your Louis Vuittons. They are all now trying to make their clientele a lot more smaller, exclusive, and prestigious, by making things less available, making you jump through loads of hoops to get the items. For me, that is not something that I am willing to do, both from a money standpoint, i.e., like buying lots of little Birkin baits just to get offered the opportunity of getting the thing that they actually want, but also from time. Like, I literally do not have time anymore. It is just so exhausting to find the time to even juggle all of those work and social commitments, let alone then to play more games. Granted, some people enjoy it, but for me, I play enough games outside of luxury. I think people who play those games clearly have too much time and too much money on their hands, and that's just not for me. Now moving on to reason number 3, and this one really does affect my most favorite fashion house, because it's about the decrease in quality. There is nothing more truer than looking at brands like Chanel, where a lot of people are raising complaints about the fact that there are wonky items, crooked, stitching is really poor. Loads of these quality issues have been raised for items that are into the many thousands, almost tens of thousands for handbags and thousands for shoes. It is just something that is not worth spending that money, spending the time and the hassle to fix these items or complain. I'd much rather buy something lower tier or mid tier that does have the quality and reputation to back it up, potentially a longer warranty as well. And you really have to start putting on your quality assurance hat and going to inspect all your items in such a meticulous detail where you didn't have to, maybe even 5-10 years ago. And so that's why a lot of people I see are gravitating to more vintage, because the quality back then was infinitely better than what it is now. A lot of them, like with Chanel, had the gold plating on it, whereas now it's just metal. And I see that trend continuing into the future as well. And I do think I'm very fortunate that I've had such a collection of items that were very good quality compared to now, and for a fraction of the price. So, you know, with quality being an issue and, you know, the prices skyrocketing out of control, and a lot of these items, you know, things like ready to wear, costume jewelry, after a few uses, a lot of them will not wear very well, and they will, you know, inevitably get ruined. And especially if they have lots of little bits on them that could fall off. Quality is obviously something that people expect, you know, the higher the price, the higher the quality. That is a trend that is increasingly going the other way. It's just something that I'm not prepared to fork out so much money for anymore. Now on to reason number 4, and this one is something that comes with time and experience, and that is I'm harder to impress nowadays. The more experience, the time, the knowledge that I acquire, the harder it is actually for me to feel impressed and wowed by items. Because when you're new to luxury and you get your first luxury item, it is so coveted to you. So anything anyone gifted me that had a designer brand on it, I just absolutely lapped it up, right? And then fast forward many years, learning about the brands, learning about quality, learning about, you know, pricing and all the styling tips and things like that, and figuring out my personal style, I've come to realize, especially now that my collection is such a vast one, I'm a lot more picky when it comes to adding things to my collection now. For me nowadays, it's got to pass, at least in the luxury realm, a very high bar. I've got to be really well, there's got to be something super special for me to go and open my purse strings, right? And I think this can be extrapolated to anything in life. The more time experience that you have, the more you have to be impressed by. It's actually served me really well to pause on items that I really want to get or lusting after, and seeing actually if I wait it out, if I still think about the item, and that usually tells me if I want it or not. And a lot of these items that are trending or super popularized by influencers or celebrities, I feel sometimes that I'm maybe slipping into the kind of hype of it all. Then I take a step back, I wait it out, and usually those items fizzle out. I've also noticed that a lot of items are very much cyclical in terms of trends returning. So like big bags versus small bags, they're always going between the two. So there's never really an urge for me to like buy something in the moment, because chances are I already have an item like that, and also chances are it will go back to the items that I already have. But not only that, I feel like everything nowadays is just a copy of or inspired by items from previous decades or trends from previous decades, and there's nothing that's very original anymore that makes me go, wow, that is so innovative, I must have that. I also find that the newer reimaginations of bags or other items are actually of poorer quality and design than their original or vintage counterparts. Like the Prada re-edition or the Chanel Kelly that was reimagined. Nothing at the moment just wows me enough. You know, it's so hard to impress me nowadays, which I think again is just a factor of time and experience. Now I'm very resolute in what I want, what I need to have in an item, the tick boxes it needs to check off. That's why I haven't really been buying anything recently. And now on to number 5, and this one is I suppose a resulting action of some of the aforementioned reasons, and that is I am enjoying what I already own. And I have a vast collection, so I am very fortunate in that regard to be able to constantly switch out things in my wardrobe. It's gotten to the extent actually that I am even kind of like trying to consolidate and downsize, because I just have so many things. And obviously most women as well will say I have nothing to wear, and that obviously does happen to me. But when you're kind of like a magpie like I am, and you're always looking at a nice new shiny thing, it would be really stupid financially and emotionally I suppose to keep buying every other week or something a new luxury item. I look towards my wardrobe first, see if I can reinvigorate or, you know, repurpose something I already have to fit that new style that I'm looking after. And then if I cannot do that and I still think about that item for many weeks or months later, then I will consider adding it. But because ultimately I don't want to be a hoarder, I don't just want to be all style no substance. And honestly, with the collection I have today, I feel like there's just an overwhelming amount of stuff that I'm actively trying to shift it. So I'm trying to do like a one in and one policy, especially when it comes to higher ticket items like handbags, because ultimately we're all gonna leave this earth one day and I just don't want to collect all the stuff. that I may never get a chance to wear. I want to have fewer things that I enjoy equally, hopefully, amongst them all, and that's why I'm prioritizing enjoying what I currently have, because I do want to show the longevity of items, because it's so easy to unbox something and do a haul. But what about actually the longer term wear and tear? That's what I'm interested in, not just as a creator, but also as a consumer. Now on to reason number 6, and this follows on very nicely from the previous reason, and that is just that I am on a journey of downsizing my collections. I have a lot of stuff, and I personally think a messy room is a messy mind. And it honestly, when I'm moving houses, it always overwhelms me and makes me feel quite embarrassed at how many things that I have. And I'm actively trying to downsize, I'm actively trying to sell things and donate things, and it makes me feel really good to have this physical weight lifted on my shoulders, it feels. And I encourage that for everybody. I think in this community especially, it can often feel quite pressurizing to constantly be churning out and buying new things. For me, I think it is so important, especially as somebody who likes to travel and wants to, move abroad one day or live abroad for a period of time. It is just not sustainable to have so many things. So I'm always in a process of auditing my wardrobe and getting rid of those items if they're not being used and loved, because somebody else could do a way better job than me. And it also frees up other fun money funds to channel towards other things or experiences, because that is something that I'm prioritizing way more. Now on to reason number 7, and this one is something I've kind of alluded to earlier, but it deserves its own specific point, and that is that I'm looking for very special pieces. I am now looking to differentiate myself and my collection with pieces that are super wow, potentially almost like pieces of art, and I suppose that takes the form of perhaps limited edition collaborations, or exotic skin bags, or items that are like pristine and vintage collections. I don't buy into trends. I'm not into items that everybody has, and I've got all of my basic items as well, so I've got a pretty good foundation for my collection as it currently is. So now something has to really impress me, especially with a luxury price tag, for me to consider it. Everybody is always going for the same items, and I want something a lot different. I just naturally have an allergic reaction whenever something is really pushed in my face, so I always go the other direction. Oh, and we have a special guest! And we have our beautiful Pebbles here to do the video with. It's a collaboration. She's just come back from a walk, which is quite apt, because she is one of my most proudest expenses, but I'd much rather spend my money on her, and she's a very special one-off item. Yeah, it just gives me a lot more joy to spend my money on her and experiences with her than on vapid items that I'll inevitably get over. So it has to be something very wow and special. Whoop! For me to consider it. And you are completely wet, little miss. So now let's move on to reason number 8, and this is more around the types of content that I'm putting on the channel, and that is I want to diversify what I share with you on the channel, and I think this is just a natural symptom of doing one thing a lot. I'm not saying that I'm fatigued by luxury. It's one of my biggest passions. It's something that I will always be passionate about, I think. But I want to inject a lot more lifestyle content, as the handle is luxury and lifestyle. I want to do more travel or food or cigar related content. Doing that and injecting that into my channel thus far. Oh, she misses daddy. Pebbles, come on. Come and sit with mummy. I think injecting more of that content, potentially even dog related content, is a lot more interesting, a lot more well-rounded as the community grows and as you'd like to get to know me and Pebbles over here a little bit more. I think that would be great, just to diversify and add a lot more dimension to what I'm offering than just here's another bag, here's another pair of shoes. And now we are on to reason number 9, the last reason actually, and a good one to end on, a nice parting message, and that is there is more to life than just things. And I'm a lot more sentimental about the people in my life, the doggies in my life, and the experiences that I've been fortunate enough to have, and the things I've been able to learn as well. And I really do think a life well lived is through the sum of your experiences, not through the objects that you have. And yes, I'm not gonna lie, I like a nice trinket or two. I'm a magpie at heart, but there are more important things in life to spend your money on or experience than just getting the newest it thing. And that will inevitably always change. You will never be able to keep up. So why even bother with the rat race of all of that when you can have a nice life filled with wonderful memories and people around you? So that is one of the reasons, also one of the biggest ones, that I've just not been that preoccupied with buying luxury items, because I'd much rather channel that time and money into the things that actually matter. I think that people who pride objects over the other aforementioned thing It's just pretty vapid. They probably have zero personality, if I'm being honest. And they probably live a quite a sad and lonely life. It can often be very, very attractive, especially the life of also celebrities as well and influencers. It seems like a life that you would want for yourself, but actually it can be quite lonely. It can, the dopamine hits just don't do it anymore. It's just not something that anybody should aspire to, and there are way more important things in life than items. So with all that being said, that is everything that I wanted to cover in today's video. Of course, it's worth mentioning that even with these reasons being said, it doesn't mean that I won't be creating luxury content. Of course, I still love a good unboxing, a good haul, so I'll do that when I feel like I have enough items worth to share with you. And there'll be a lot more review videos or, you know, longer term videos on styling and things like that, how items have worked out for me, which I think will be useful. I will leave this video here as I've been talking quite a lot already.